we're going to talk about how Pokemon Champions could revolutionize Pokemon games going forward. Right now, it seems like there's going to be a split segregation between competitive play and main storyline games. Most of this is speculation as we don't have much information about how this game is going to work out, but the future looks amazing if some of these things pan out. Shout out to Wolfie VGC for some of the inspiration of this video. However, I want to give my own take and some of the things that I want to see. First things first, Pokemon Champions, a new title of a game that was released on Pokemon Day, really focusing on the competitive aspect of Pokemon video games. Not a new concept, but definitely something that hasn't been done in a while. We don't have much information, but from what we've seen in the videos, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any story. It's basically just going to be a battle simulator. Additionally, more than likely, it seems like it's probably going to be an easier way for individuals to get into the battle scene. More than likely, giving you the Pokemon that you can use to battle, and even potentially giving you items and IV changes so that you can change up the exact strategy that you want to use. Now, I don't have any competitive battle experience. However, it's always been very interesting to see the TCG battling mechanics and also the video game battle mechanics. Now, for me personally, if they came up with a video game that would give you the Pokemon and you can actually change the IVs, you can actually give them the items that you need to make them even better according to all the pros, I think that would make my life easier because I don't have hours to spend training my Pokemon to get these specific IVs. Sometimes you have to defeat certain Pokemon to give you the certain stat increases, and if you mess up, you have to reset them. Then you also have to find an item that may be in one game or maybe another, and it's just a lot that goes into it, and I don't have that knowledge, that bandwidth, or that time. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, so I think this could appeal to a wide variety of people. It's kind of like the TCG experience. You have the pros who kind of like actually understand the fundamentals. They find the Pokemon cards that work. They build a deck. Then you watch a video that says, hey, this is a pretty good deck and this is how you use it. For the video games, you can watch somebody talk about, hey, this is my 6-person team. These are the IVs. These are the moves. This is how I use it. You should try this out. You can boot up the game, model it right after what the kind of specifications that the pros are using, and then you can actually try it out to see if you can actually do it. Even if you're easily able to obtain these sets of Pokemon IVs, etc., I still don't think that automatically means that you're going to win. I think there's an understanding of how these moves work, when to switch in, when to switch out, and do certain things that's going to be required. So just because you have the perfect team doesn't mean you're able to use them efficiently. Now that's Pokemon Champions from what we've seen and also speculation. We really don't have much information other than what the video has shown. But if this is true or even partly true, what does that mean for like mainline games? If that's somewhat true, that means the mainline games won't have to focus on competitive battle styles in their games. I think there's about two things. One, they won't have to worry about scaling, about Pokemon, moves, and certain battle features. And two, they'll be able to experiment with battle mechanics. A good example of this is Legends Arceus. I mean, everything in that game regarding how you battled with other Pokemon, there weren't any trainers, but how you battled with other Pokemon wouldn't work with the competitive battle scene. Additionally, with the upcoming Pokemon Legends ZA, the same thing with the battle mechanics where you could potentially dodge moves and other moves taking longer for wind up or have a certain reach, that does not work with the competitive battle scene. But they can only do that for two reasons. One, coming to terms that this iteration of the game is not the next generational battle competitive scene, which essentially the Legends series is not. And two, they could only do that if they had another game that was central and hosted the battle competitive scene. Because just imagine Legends ZA, imagine that battle mechanic works out really well, everybody enjoys it, and then they want to implement that into Generation 10. If they did not have something like Pokemon Champions that was going to host the competitive battle scene, they could not do that for Generation 10 because normally with the current system, Generation 10 would host the new battle mechanics and battle scene, specifically for competitive. I think it's a good thing because one, that means that they could potentially focus on story development and world building without having to focus on the battle competitive scene and how it's going to be propelled forward with the new generation. Two, I think that also means that they can try out new things with the battle system because they're not afraid that this is going to change up competitive. Like I said, me personally, I would like to see a real-time battle system where maybe I even become the Pokemon because who hasn't wanted to do that? I mean, just imagine a world where you're just a trainer, you're running around, and then when you go into battle, you actually become your Charizard, your Rayquaza, or whoever. Then you're having to dodge moves physically, like dodge a Hyper Beam or dodge a flamethrower, and then also attack. I mean, that to me sounds so exciting. And going back to the whole scaling thing, that also means that they can implement new ideas in Pokemon games and not be worried to how it's going to affect the competitive scene. A good example is like Legends Arceus. I mean, I really like the alpha mechanic. You had these Pokemon that were extremely large, extremely overpowered because they just came straight out the gate at a super high level. But if this was a mainline Pokemon game like a Generation 9 or 10, you couldn't have alpha Pokemon because imagine that translated to the competitive scene. But again, if they had a dedicated game, then they could try out putting new Pokemon or new Pokemon types in the sense of it being an alpha or it being some, super powered version that is very hard to get, but you can get under certain circumstances. I think it's exciting. Going back to Champions, we talked about a lot of good things that could happen to the mainline games because of Champions. Here are some exciting things that I think could happen within Champions as well. Because it seems to be a game dedicated to competitive play, that means that they could potentially take things from all other games and even new games and combine them into one area. For example, previous games, whenever they came out with a new feature like Megas or Gigantamax, those normally stayed within those games and never made it outside of them. But as you can see in the trailer of Pokemon Champions, they have Mega and Terastallize, which is exciting because you weren't able to have that in other mainline games. Right now in Generation 9, we have Terastallize Pokemon, but we can't do Mega or we can't do Gigantamax. But a dedicated competitive play, you can do all three of those, which is cool because I actually haven't done a competitive mode with Gigantamax or Megas. And with all this, I think they can do some really creative twists to make sure it's still fun and engaging. They could probably do periods of time where it's only Gigantamax or only Megas or only Terastallize, or maybe they can make goals for you to win battles with certain type of mechanics. We talked about some good things. Here are some potential bad things that could happen depending on how this is implemented. One thing is that they could potentially split the fan base. I'm not really sure how many people who play competitive only buy the new series games because they want to get integrated with the competitive scene. But if that was the case, it could split them between, oh, now I never have to buy a new Pokemon game because I'm only going to buy Pokemon Champions and just test out the Pokemon that come into there. Me personally, I don't think that's the case. I think we only stand to gain from this development if it goes the way we think. I think it'll only make it easier for people to understand the world of competitive play and get into it and try it out. An additional potential drawback could be maintenance issues. We all know Pokemon companies, specifically Game Freak, is not the best at their game utilization and efficiency. And if they create a specific game for competitive battle scene that requires recurring patches, I'm not sure we've seen that in the Pokemon scene, and I don't know if they're prepared to handle that bandwidth. I hope they do it right. We just haven't seen the best work from them in the past. And that also translates to the main series games. Because if they do everything that I want, for example, real-time battling and a true open world, that's going to require a lot of efficiency and coding for the game, which they haven't handled the best even with the current mechanics like Scarlet and Violet. Now, I'm not a video game developer, so I'm not sure how much of an alleviation from removing the competitive focus from the main series game, so that's actually going to help them, but they haven't had the best track record, so that's something I'm worried about. Now, another thing that's kind of a little bit outlandish, but it could really happen, is what if Pokemon Champions does so well that nobody cares about main story games? Like, what if people are playing Pokemon only for the battle scene, and then a game comes out where it's strictly just battling, and they give you all the Pokemon you want, and what if everybody goes straight to there? I'm not exactly sure how true the fear is, but I feel like there could be a scenario where people only want to just battle with Pokemon, and now if it's just given to you, that could be the alternative. And this could only be heightened if they don't do well with the actual story-like games. Because if the competitive scene does really well, but then they start to decline in their story games because now they're not focused on that, that'll only heighten where, you know what, I'm just going to battle. I don't care about the story. But as a whole, I'm really excited for the future. I think it's smart to draw the line and focus on two separate lanes, one on competitive battle and the other on the story and battle mechanics, because I think it'll just optimize the experience for all of us. Additionally, I think it'll bring more people into the hobby. Pokemon is a great franchise and I want everybody to experience it, whether it's in the competitive battle or story mode and just enjoying the world. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you have any other ideas? Are you hopeful for the future? I hope to see you in the next video. Later.